It wasn't thunder that brought you to me, nor lightning carving bold declarations in the sky. It was quiet, the way you smiled, the way your eyes paused on mine for just a second longer than expected, like the soft bloom of morning light slipping through curtains. You arrived, not with the noise, but warmth. I didn't know then that love was growing, that in every silent glance and casual word something deeper was beginning to take root. You didn't need to shout or gesture wildly. Just by being near, your presence filled empty corners of my life I hadn't known were vacant. Your laugh, low and real, would drift across the air and curl itself around my heart, and I let it. I didn't resist. How could I, when everything about you called me to stay, to listen closer, to feel more? Love didn't leap from cliffs. It quietly stepped across puddles and into doorways. It learned the rhythm of our conversations, the pause before we said goodnight, the way we reached for each other when words ran out. And from that softness, from that silence, love began to whisper its name. You didn't come with a promise or a script. You simply showed up again and again with steady hands and tired eyes that still lit up when you saw me. You were real, and being with you made the world feel less like a test and more like a song I knew the words to. You didn't try to impress, yet everything you did impressed me. The way you paid attention, how you remembered the smallest things I said, how you never let me feel alone, even in the quietest hours. With you, silence wasn't awkward. It was comfort. It was meaning without noise. You didn't need grand gestures, because the smallest things you did were filled with care. A coffee placed on my desk, a hand on my back as we walked. Love, I found, was made of these moments, soft and persistent. You weren't trying to sweep me off my feet. You were anchoring me to something I hadn't known I needed. And that steady, gentle pull, that was everything. It grew in the way you looked at me when you thought I wasn't watching, in how you listened without rushing to fix things, in how you held me like I was something precious, never to be dropped. We didn't explode into passion. We drifted closer, caught in a tide that neither of us fought. And still, day by day, I fell more. I fell for how you didn't try to be perfect, how you let me see the cracks, the doubts, the places where the world had worn you down. I saw them, and I loved you more for them, because your strength wasn't in pretending. It was in staying, showing up when it was hard, opening up when it would have been easier to shut down. That vulnerability, that truth you shared so quietly, pulled me in closer, and the more you let me in, the more I wanted to stay. Not to fix you, not to save you, but to stand beside you as you are. Because that was enough, more than enough. In the hush of ordinary days, love deepened, unexpectedly, completely. It wrapped itself around our routines, around the way your hands found mine beneath dinner tables, around the soft, "Are you okay?" that meant more than any poem. There were no fireworks, no dramatic declarations, but in the quiet, we built something louder than noise, a foundation of knowing, of trust, of showing up. You were never a storm, you were the calm after it. And in your calm, I found pieces of myself I didn't know were missing. You made room for all of me, not just the bright parts, but the messy ones, the restless ones. And in doing so, you taught me how to make room for you too. We didn't fall in love. We rose into it step by step, moment by moment, until we were no longer two people navigating the world separately. We were a we, a quiet, unstoppable we. You made it safe to dream again, not of castles or fairy tales, but of real things. Mornings with tea and soft music, hands reaching for each other under blankets, long walks where we say nothing and still understand everything. With you, even silence speaks, even the smallest moments feel full. I've never felt more seen than I do in your presence. You notice things, the little ways I move, the stories I don't tell aloud, the worries I try to hide, and you never demand I explain. You simply stay, and that changes everything. I used to believe love had to be loud to be true. that it needed passion, sparks, a kind of wild chaos. But now I know that real love is quieter, it's steadier, it doesn't burn out, it glows consistently, faithfully, and in that glow, I've found peace. We don't need to speak to be heard. Sometimes your gaze alone is a conversation. Sometimes the way you lean into me, the way your fingers graze my wrist, tells me more than 1,000 words. I used to crave validation, used to seek love in places that only offered echoes. But with you, there's no need to chase. You're just there, always. That constancy is the most romantic thing I've ever known. You never made love a battlefield or a puzzle. You made it home. You made it a warm kitchen on a cold morning, a quiet laugh in the middle of an ordinary day, a soft place to land, and in your quiet, I learned to quiet my fears, to believe again, to trust that something real could last, not because it shouts to be noticed, but because it never leaves.